What is going on? Welcome to episode 5 of Just Bleed Radio. Today is September 17th, 2023. I'm your host, LazyBed, and I'm joined by a few of my closest compadres. From the West Coast, Best Coast, the man no special is in the flesh. Across the sea, but he don't drink tea. DangerMouse is in the house. And the madness in the middle, he demands, he spect. It's SuperDave Fairtex. We got a full slate ahead. So with that said, boys, how was your Noche?
Unfortunately for me, I did not watch it live. However, I did get to watch the main event and the rest of the card afterwards this morning. It looked like a great fight card afterwards. Although on paper, I would not have said that coming into this. But it ended up being a very great night. I enjoyed it very much. Although there was some things that kind of stand out from the rest of them. But no, I definitely enjoyed the card, more or less.
Well, my Noche was pretty good. I thought the card delivered overall. You know, a good amount of finishes. Most of the fights that went to a decision, I thought were pretty good. I enjoyed the theme card, and overall, it was a good Noche for me.
Yeah, much like No Special, I didn't get to watch it all live. I tried to stay up, and I was falling asleep by the time the main card was coming on, so I just abandoned ship and went to bed and came down and watched it this afternoon. Very nice, chilled with a cup of coffee. Enjoyed it on the whole. No complaints at all. There was obviously some interesting decisions, but we'll be getting to those later, no doubt.
Well, not much of a fiesta. None of us had any cervezas. No real celebrations at all, huh?
Well, I had some Super Shake. I drank water, but I had some Super Shake, and it was super festive in here.
I did not have margaritas, but I did have a couple of cervezas.
Oh, margaritas would have been a good call. I didn't think of that.
Unfortunately, my inner Luke Thomas was not around.
Next time. There's always next time.
Absolutely.
No, it was just beer and bourbon for me last night, and then, like I said, coffee this afternoon.
Very nice.
Beer and bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Which came first?
The beer came first.
You madman.
The beer came first, isn't it?
That's the wrong
Beer
order.
than liquor, you get sicker quicker. Liquor than beer, have no fear. Like, did you get sick or anything?
No.
Interesting.
Must be the opposite and over in the pond over the.
Yeah, I think that checks out the science behind it.
The flip side.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think it's time to get things cracking. We're going to jump right into segment 1 here. Grasso versus Shevchenko 2 now in the books. A 5-round war ending in a split draw. Alexa Grasso retains her flyweight championship in a fight that saw many MMA fans as divided as the judges. This now makes 1 win and 1 draw for Grasso against the Bullet, who now finds herself in an interesting position moving forward in this peculiar rivalry. Personally, I wasn't exactly through the roof about this event going in, with the seemingly non-existent promotional coverage and countless fights that fell off the card. But after this main event, I was sold all over again. These two women are so well matched. They're well versed in their fields. Honestly, I think it's a fucking treat to watch them compete. And despite it not really having a dog in the race, or if you had a particular dog in the race, this was top tier women's MMA. It doesn't get much better than this. I won't comment too much on the results because I'm a little bit biased towards Grasso, but I will say that a draw in a title fight is a bit anticlimactic. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see if we ran this back a third time. So with that being said, what were you guys' thoughts on this decision itself and the fight as a whole?
I'll happily start off with a bit of a breakdown. Round 1, I had Shevchenko taking that round, but it was very close. I wouldn't massively have objected to it going either way. Round 2, we had Grasso with the knockdown that sent Valentina literally head over heels. So that was clearly her round. I know Valentina came back and kind of took a bit of position there, but It was still Grasso's clearly her round. Round three, I have on my notes Shevchenko dominant positionally. Plus she had the guillotine attempt, so that was pretty much her round. No argument there. Round 4, Grasso made an early mistake. There was some striking. She was getting the advantage, and then she ended up on the floor with Shevchenko, which I thought was a bit of a mistake because I think Shevchenko ended up on top. But Grasso recovered very nicely, got back to her feet. So I have a question mark, but I gave that round to Grasso. I did say that maybe there was some damage inflicted by Shevchenko that could have edged it in her favour, but on the whole, I gave it to Grasso. So I had the fight at 2-2 at that point. The commentators all on the UFC all had it at 2-2. I saw Aaron Bronstetter's tweet; he had it at 2-2. So I don't think that's a massive, radical statement to make. And then round 5, I thought Grasso took it fairly easily. I know there was some back and forth, but I think finishing. I know Shevchenko started off well with the boxing, but then once Grasso kind of got her down, got her hands tied up, was hammering her down on the ground. I think, as Eric Nixick said last week to Sean Strickland, optics, and that just looked like she took that round from Shevchenko. I think that just burnt into the eyes of the judges. And then so I would have had it 3-2 for Grasso. I wouldn't have massively objected if someone said it was 3-2 for Shevchenko, because it was very close. And then, of course, the judges blew me away by saying, split draw, which is very unusual and certainly so in a title fight. But in a strange way, I kind of think that is a good result for the fight. It's close enough that it could easily be considered a draw, and no one got robbed, really, I don't think. So, yeah, I don't hate the result, but that 10-8 at the end to swing it that way, that was very dubious, to say the least. And I'll leave it at that on this fight.
Yeah, I rather enjoyed this fight. It was highly competitive. I agree with most of what you said about how the fight went. I just find it unusual how Valentina almost has a pattern of throwing fights away now. Like, if she wouldn't have went for that, like, head and arm throw or wherever, like, in round 5, it probably would have been her fight. But she fucked up, did that, got her back taken again. It's like she did the same kind of thing in the second Nunes fight where she probably could have had the decision, but she tried to take down in round 5 and kind of failed and kind of threw the round away. I don't really know what she's thinking, but I thought she did a lot better this fight. Obviously, there was I don't think there was any spinny strikes, maybe one. But Grasso did really good, competitive in the early rounds. Slick boxing as usual, but I don't know, man. Just I can't. The right fighter won, and so I'm actually kind of glad. I thought that Grasso won, and I hate the 10-8. But if he didn't give the 10-8, then Valentina would have won, and I thought she didn't deserve to win because of making such a mistake in the 5th round. So in the end, the universe kind of balanced itself, and the right outcome was made. That's about all I have on it.
If you're gonna ask me, I thought it was an extremely competitive fight, and I had kind of foresaw Valentina shoring up her defense a lot more in this second fight or the rematch. Looking at the fight to begin with, we looked at Grasso being the better boxer, and Valentina came in with a much better boxing game. It wasn't super aggressive, but it was very on point with the jab, looking for straights. And you're looking at Grasso just all of a sudden becoming a more dangerous striker just to begin with, and having a lot more, well-rounded game coming into this fight, which was, still impressive. But Valentina came back in with a lot more grappling than I think she had wanted to. But Grasso was more than prepared for it. They both came in with very, very determined game plans, and it was a competitive fight, like Danger said. Like I don't think I would have been too upset because it was a close fight, but I thought Grasso was the rightful winner. Looking back at it, I think that judge that scored it at 10-8 in Grasso's favor, I think he either misjudged a round, or if I'm looking at it right, and this is just me projecting, he may have given the 10-8 to Grasso to, change his score, because he may have that fourth round was a little close, but there's no way that fifth round is a 10-5, 10-8. I don't know how you can score it a 10-8, but that's neither here nor there. She still retains the title even if it's a draw. Plus, now that gives us a third fight or a trilogy, and which I think no one was, happy about, but especially Shevchenko. But that does mean that the other two contenders, Aaron Blanchfield and Manuel Fiel, I don't know if I said that right, but they didn't really have the best fights optically. So they may have to fight each other, which again gives this division a little bit more time to give us new contenders. That's fine. Flyweights probably the best women's division right now, and it's exciting. I'm excited for when this division holds, and also I am a little bit more biased to Grasso. I thought she did win. I was picking her, but hey, it was a good fight. Can't complain.
I got one quick thing. What would you like to see next for the division? Like, where do we go from here? Like, Valentina doesn't get a rematch, right?
I don't think so. I don't think she should. Because the problem is, if they give her a rematch and she wins, that makes it 2-2. So then we have to have another one as well. So one fight is 2. I just don't see it any other way. Unless, of course, Grasso beats her, then we don't have to see another rematch.
There's no one you could give her right now, though. I don't think. As far as speaking, Grasso, technically you can go with either Manuel Fior or Aaron Blanchfield. But even then, I don't think those are the right decisions because, Blanchfield won her fight, fair enough. So did Manuel Fiel, but like, you could go with either option. And if we're just going to go with either option, you might as well just go with the rematch. But I guess at this point too, it's whether or not Valentina wants to stay at flyweight. Now that bantamweight is open.
That's a good
also
point.
something to consider too.
Yeah.
Did any of you guys catch Valentina afterwards talking about her injury to her thumb?
No.
God forbid.
Yeah, she apparently injured her right thumb at some point during the fight. She was in a air cast type thing in the post-fight presser.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure how severe, but I thought that was
I think I did see someone mentioning it, but I didn't pay that much attention. I certainly didn't see the press conference.
Well, if I've learned anything from Pat Barry, it's you don't necessarily need a thumb or every digit. So.
That's all right. You don't need a finger right now.
Fingers are optional.
Yeah.
Spoken.
Thumb is a finger, right?
No. Well, no. A thumb is a thumb.
So it's not a finger.
No.
It's a digit.
A mandible?
Before we dive off down some crazy weird tangent here. Something myself and No Special were talking about before the show, about Valentina just gave up on her kicking game after round 1 mostly, and it seemed to be quite popular. It seemed to be quite effective. It was. I always give a shout out where I hear it. So it was Lucas Tracy MMA, who I heard give this take, and when I discussed it with No Special, we both thought it was pretty valid. I don't know what the other two think about it.
Yeah, it's a pretty good observation. I didn't really catch it in the moment. I didn't see it happening, but now that you pointed out, thinking back, she did kind of abandon the kicking game. That's strange for Valentina.
Yeah, I remember her landing a good body kick, like her good body kick.
Super
I thought
quick.
Grasso's stance switching kind of might have shut it down a little bit, but She did stop kind of using it later in the fight now that I think about it, but some of that might have been from Grasso constantly switching stance and maybe taking away some of those weapons.
Do you think it's because she started to rely on more of her boxing instead, rather than give other maybe she was afraid of bringing up a bad habit with spinning kicks, and she was like like an unforeseen error where you would throw it with you get used to throwing kicks and you throw another kick. You're like, oh crap, I probably should have done that. So I'll just focus on my boxing instead.
That's interesting. It's possible.
Yeah, that could have been part of the corner advice, maybe between rounds, limit the kicks. Maybe she has a tendency to, when she gets too loose with the kicking game, to start throwing the spinny shit.
It's like her body kick is kind of money. Like
Yeah.
every time,
Yeah.
like she threw it in both fights, it was pretty good. So
I mean, her fucking kicks are violent. You ever seen her kick in the tree?
Mm-mm.
Oh, God. I've seen a training video of her kicking trees before. It's fucking... I don't even know what to say about that.
Going
Yeah.
full blood sport, huh?
All right, boys. Next up on the docket, Big Mouth Kevin Holland and Three Name Jack met in a battle of ranked 170 pounders, going all 3 rounds and reaching the judges' scorecards for a split decision, with the nod going the way of Perth native Jack Della Maddalena. This marks now 14 wins in a row for JDM, with 6 coming inside of the UFC, 7 if you include the Dana White's Contender Series. Holland continues to find himself bouncing between wins and losses, unable to find any real consistency, despite now training out of his own gym. I thought both men had their moments, but the cleaner, crisper strikes and combos definitely went Jack's way. Kev shined briefly at moments. However, I felt like JDM just did a really great job of closing distance and shutting down Holland's long-range weapons. It was another sort of lackluster performance from the proposed title contender Della Maddalena, but a solid win against a big-name competitor. I still question Holland's goals and motives within the UFC itself, because it seems like his real motivation only lies with taking fights and making money, which that's fine, but I don't know. It's just, what does that mean for him going forward? If it's not the title he's chasing and it's just money, it's hard to predict his future. But what were you guys' individual takeaways from this fight? And with the win, who would you like to see JDM tested against next?
I'll go first on this one. So if I'm not mistaken, a lot of the people in this Discord, or just in general, were almost jumping off the Jack Del Mana train, if I'm not mistaken. Mainly because of his very tough, very last minute, also cutting weight twice, very short amount of time against a very game opponent in Rafael, or Basil, I believe was his name. But a very good grappler, very durable fighter, and it was just a couple IQ, fight IQ mistakes that he did or made in that fight, and this is pretty much a return to form of what we saw prior against a much tougher opponent in Kevin Holland, more well-rounded opponent in Kevin Holland, a more capable opponent that has actually fought decent fighters at both middleweight and welterweight. Now he showed up. And I'm actually impressed, and I was happy to see Jack Della Mana show up and actually prove the doubters wrong. I was ecstatic about this fight. But that being said, I was happy to see an actual Kevin Holland who was motivated and prepared and wasn't trying to, be lazy or, not go for other, takedowns. Like it showed him actually go for a takedown and try. Jack actually shored up his defense for takedowns a little bit, and that discouraged Holland right away. And Holland got caught a couple of times extending. Jack was clipped once or twice, but stayed, calm and cool, collected. You see Holland overextending in the pocket, and then, kind of have wonky footwork at times, get a little sloppy with his combos. Jack just was the more accurate, the more precise striker, and it showed. I'm excited. I'm back. I was never off, but I'm definitely ready to see him face another top 10 fighter. He was scheduled, I think, to go against Sean Brady. I would like to either see that, or at a bare minimum, him and Neil Magny, or even Michael Chiesa if he's still fighting.
I give my take on this. After watching that fight, I came away like kind of just meh on the whole thing. I thought I went into the fight with huge expectations. I thought it was technical and it was kind of interesting, but I was hoping for like a lot more violence or, maybe someone to get rocked or more excitement. And, I think JDM showed he's the better fighter than Kevin Holland. Just, he didn't really show me anything that got me really excited about him in the future. I thought I was surprised it was a split decision. I thought it was a clean victory for JDM. It looks like all the media scored it for JDM. It was the same guy that did the 10-8 that gave the fight to Kevin Holland. But I mean, it was kind of an enjoyable fight, but I don't think it really delivered. I think the general discourse and Discord was just kind of like uneventful overall and just kind of bland, even though there was some good technique. As for what's next, I think the only fight I really want to see is JDM versus Sean Brady. I know Austin mentioned that, but that fight was booked before. I don't think Sean Brady belongs that high up in the rankings, so I think it's time we did something about that. And it's a good matchup for JDM and a fight that I want to see. I mean, I like Sean Brady. He's a donk. Don't get me wrong, but he doesn't deserve to be ranked that high. And he needs to kind of get back to lower opponents and maybe rebuild.
Yeah,
What?
No, just
What?
I'll let
You
Danger
got
go
something
first.
to say?
I'll let Danger go first.
Okay.
An enjoyable enough fight. I maybe expected it to be a little more violent, as Dave said. I thought, again, to use that Nixic phrase, the optics were very much in JDM's favor. I just remember hearing a couple of really solid sounding. God, my teeth aren't working. Strikes from body strikes from JDM on Kevin. And what else have I got? I think there's about 70 seconds left in round 2, and then JDM landed a 5-punch combo. Hollin kept doing that thing where he was turning slightly away, but JDM didn't want to have a go at taking his back, so instead he just lit him up with body punches whenever he did it. No objection with the score. I could have probably quite happily given it all 3 rounds to JDM, but I have no objection with Holland stealing one. So yeah, enjoyable fight on the whole. I think you have to consider that JDM was giving up 7 or 8 inches of reach, if I remember rightly. So he was having a little bit of difficulty closing the distance, I guess. As for who he should fight next, I'm just looking at the rankings now. Brady's not a bad call by Dave. How about Ian Machado Gary? That's a fun one.
That's fun.
Yeah,
or it's either that or you give him a top 10 and opponent, and that means Sean Brady or Vicente Luque, one of those two. But I'd be quite happy with the Machado Gary contest.
I think it was Luke that mentioned last night in the his live recap, JDM versus Luque.
Oh shit!
That would be a banger. That would be a fucking scrap right there.
Yeah,
I don't know if I like that one. I don't know if I like that for Luque though.
Yeah, depending on which side of the coin you fall on there, that's a bit of an iffy one because Luque would take some fucking shots.
Mm-hmm.
He always does, but JDM's his boxing is pretty elite.
Yeah, I would. If I'm in Luque's corner, I'm telling him to stay clear of Jackie 3 Names. I don't need him to have another brain bleed anytime soon, at least.
Well, I think Luque is a more complete fighter.
No, you're not wrong. I'm just saying. If I'm looking out for my fighter, I would say, no, let's just stay clear of this one for right now.
He's ranked number 10 right now. JDM's 14, Howland's 13. They'll probably switch places.
Who's 12 and 11?
Neil Magny is 12, and 11 is Ian Machado Gary.
Mm.
I would say honestly, it should be Neil that he fights next. Neil's probably going to give him that clinch work that he needs to kind of figure out. Because I would say Michael Chiesa, but Michael Chiesa might just go to being an analyst on the desk again. That's a possibility. And then if you're going to book him with Sean Brady, that wrestling might get to Jack maybe, but again, his striking is definitely not where Jack's is, and so it's a fair fight either way, right?
Yeah. Bit of a classic grappler versus striker matchup in a sense.
Yep.
Not that Neil is exactly a classic grappler, but he is grappling heavy.
Yeah, a lot of the clinch work he does.
Yeah. All right, great observations and suggestions, boys. And with that, Noche has come and gone and a new day arises. After 8 bout cancellations, numerous hiccups, and what seemed to have been a cursed card, we finally did it. Performance of the night bonuses were awarded to Raul Rosas Jr., Daniel Zellhuber, Lupita Godinez, Roman Kopylov, and Charlie Campbell. No fight of the night honors were given, at least according to Wikipedia, so we're going to do that here. It's time for our individual fights of the night. Now, I'm going to go a little different here, and I'm going to choose a one-sided beatdown as my fight of the night. Lupi Godinez, let's fucking go. You want to talk about a lacking? She went in there and she whooped Elise Reed like she owed her money. Those hands were sharp. The pressure was heavy. She even hit a beautiful takedown that got DC out of his seat. Now, granted, it's Elise Reed we're talking about here, but that was a gorgeous performance. I like how Lupi stays active, but she keeps improving seemingly from fight to fight. Little tidbit, I would have really loved to have gotten the Gastelum Rachmanov fight on this card, and I hope it gets rebooked. But yeah, as far as my fight of the night, I'm going to go with Lupi Godinez.
Yeah, it did. You do have to wonder how Reed survived that armbar attempt. Looked like
Yeah, that was nasty.
at any moment.
My fight of the night was actually Raul Rosas Jr. versus Terrence Mitchell. I hope I'm not stealing anyone's fight of the night there. I actually went in there expecting Rosas Jr. to lose again because I think Terrence Mitchell, he had a recent loss, but before that he had a little streak going, and I thought he was like a legit fighter, but Rosas Jr. just kind of went in there at 18 years old and big brother this guy. Like, I don't know, his striking looked a little bit better, but I think he just said kind of like fuck the grappling and went in there and landed some good punches. I don't think I'm still not sure if he's ready for the UFC yet, but I think it was a solid win and kind of exciting. He's got this really unique look to him, and so when he's like throwing his hooks and stuff like that, it kind of looks neat. And when he attacks on the ground, I thought it was a good performance for the kid. He's back on track. And just kind of a fun little scrap altogether. And I will give him my fight of the night award.
I'll go next. For me, it was the main event. I'm sorry. I know it's a low-hanging fruit, but the fight actually went back and forth. You had Grasso, the standing champion, fighting the former champion in a main event slot that was pretty much the promotion could have been better, but I thought I saw enough of it just to kind of get me excited for the fight. And also Dave did get me more invested into the card overall. But I'll say right now, that fight had me on the edge of my seat the entire time I was watching it. And then again, I am a diehard, so it's not everybody's cup of tea. So I would say that one for me, just because the momentum shifts, the fact that you had to kind of look at the scoring criteria, that you had to actually kind of look at, okay, what's being applied, how's so and so countering the said attempt, or the strikes being given, is the damage enough to take that round, is the position enough to give them control. there was a lot of momentum shifts that gave me enough inkling. Okay, this is the fight of the night, at least for me. And then again, I have a little bit more of a, softer spot for main events like this.
Yeah, I can go two ways on this. I can go for my actual fight that I thought was a pretty good fight and deserves mentioning, or I can go for the comedy version, where it's more down to the commentary than the actual fight itself. So I'll start with my actual fight of the night. I think Campbell versus Reyes. Reyes' older brother, I believe he was. Campbell from Dana White's Contender Series. Had great hands, looked very accurate, finished the fight pretty easily, and then did the WWE style antics with DC when he was asking him, "What do you think of my boxing?" And just as DC tries to explain what it is, the guy said, "I don't care what you think about my boxing." Not being into wrestling, I don't necessarily get the reference of that, but DC certainly seemed to appreciate it. And then the funny take for the night would be the Perez versus Lacerda fight, with Chris Tognoni stopped the fight thinking that Lacerda is unconscious when of course he isn't. The funny part of it was Dominic Cruz just constantly calling out, he's going to stop this fight and he's going to be wrong. And then I think John Anik might have chipped in and said, yeah, I think it's looking that way. And of course, they were bang on the money. Tognoni messed it up. In all fairness to Chris, he did wrap his arm around the fighter at the end and say, look, mate, I'm sorry I messed up. I thought you were unconscious. So he owned it. I'm glad the result was overturned into a no contest. But yeah, epically bad reffing, I'm afraid, at that moment.
I mean, boo this man!
Do you just run that one back?
I mean, it got ruled a no contest, so there's always that possibility. But do we need to see it again?
Nah, probably not. But I don't know what to do with either fighter. One was on a 4-fight losing streak.
Valid. Wasn't he? He was close to tying the record, right?
Yeah, well, if he'd lost, he would have tied the record, and he did lose. He should have lost. That was not bad reffing by Chris Tognoni. That was great reffing by Chris Tognoni. This motherfucker did the Brazilian tap, and the fight didn't get stopped. And so he fake went limp. Like you can literally see, he kind of does a get limp motion. Like the ref had no option but to stop that fight. Like he literally, his arms went limp.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the ref stopped, he's like, "No, what'd you do? What'd you do? I don't know. That's the new move." And he was gonna hope for a no contest. That's big brain fight IQ, but the ref had no option but to, if a fighter's got what you think is a choke, and he's not doing anything, and then he his body just kind of goes limp and falls, especially when he's getting held up. You have to stop the fight. I mean, I don't like the review. I think the kid was fucking around and he played the system and he won.
He still only gets half of his purse, I think.
Yeah, but he didn't tie the record for the most losses, and he probably gets another fight now in the UFC.
Yep, bought himself another fight.
Someone online suggested, someone famous online suggested restarting the fights if both fighters agree, and I think they should lean into that.
I don't think they legally can.
Yeah, I think they should change the rules.
I know, but then we're trying to change everything. If we try to open Pandora's box, then the entire thing gets questioned.
Yeah, they do have a tendency to not like to make any changes, because if they make a change, they have to admit they were wrong, and that's not their favorite thing to do.
Yeah, I will say,
honestly, that kid fake going out, put it.
If the ref says he thinks he made a mistake, and he's the one who called it, I'll lean towards that, because that Danger had pointed that out to me, and I was kind of defending the call when we were talking before. And I was kind of leaning into the whole fighter safety thing. He's not in the choke. How does he know what the gentleman's threshold is for going unconscious? But At the same time, if
He
he
went limp.
believes he made the wrong call, similar to how we looked
He
at
was
the Robbie.
gaslit, man. He was gaslit. Just because he was gaslit doesn't mean
If he did,
like
it was probably like the situation similar to Robbie Lawler versus Ben Askren, right? It's a blood.
well, Robbie didn't go limp.
He technically dropped his hand,
Yeah, but he wasn't
which alerted the
this
ref.
is like
I
man.
get what you're saying, but I feel like this was way more egregious. This was like, it was pretty fucking blatant, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think you could. I don't see any way you could defend this guy if you're his PR team. You're pretty fucked because that was bad, dude.
We're talking about Downey.
Well, no, I'm talking about whoever
Lacerda?
Mr. Limp Arm.
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking the limp
He
noodle.
gave him a system. I think he gave him a system, and good on him.
Yeah, I mean, more power to you. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. But
yeah, because I mean, there was clearly a Brazilian tap before that too. Like
I did not see that. I had to look at it again until that's when then the replays it showed it. I think I was like, maybe, but that's what made me think it was a real choke.
yeah.
But either way, it's a shit decision against a guy who was 0-4 in the UFC. It was about to be 0-5, and I think this was Chairez's first fight or second fight. If I'm not mistaken.
No idea.
Go to our resident stat guy. Nobody.
Yeah.
No, we had somebody. Hold on. Uno Memento, and yes, this was his second fight in the UFC, coming off of Tatsuro Taira loss. So, yes, unfortunately, yeah.
Well, I think that this ought to lead us right into our next topic for the day, the concept of themed events moving forward. We all know the UFC has long been a proponent of events that highlight certain nations or locales, but it appeared last night they fully leaned into it with the Noche event. We had multiple video packages and vignettes with notable Latinos narrating. There was mariachi bands during the ceremonial weigh-ins. We had Mexican music lead-ins for the commercial breaks. The works, they really rolled it out there. I found it to be a pretty awesome experience. But as a sports fan, I'm big on the pageantry element of combat sports, and I felt like this show really filled a niche that the UFC tends to ignore. There was like times watching it, it kind of brought me back.
Noche.
Either or, here nor there.
Yeah.
Potato. But at times it kind of brought me back to the Pride days because of how Pride was so fucking good at the pyrotechnics and the fucking crazy walkouts and all this and that. But I really feel like an occasional event with more pomp and circumstance like this can elevate a simple fight night to a big pay-per-view feel. So I'm curious as to you guys' thoughts on whether this concept worked or was it a bit too cliche and on the nose? So are you for themed cards or
I can jump in first because, to be honest, with watching the fights today rather than watching them live last night, I tend to skip through a lot of the stuff that's in between fights, so I've probably missed a whole bunch of stuff. I have no objection in theory, but I think generally speaking, if it's an English card, I want to see English fighters. If it's a French card, I want to see French fighters. Whichever country it's being hosted, and I expected to see them being represented. I don't really know if I need a particular day because obviously, Mexican Independence Day. I guess it's good for business, but obviously for the vast majority of the world, it doesn't mean anything. Probably most people didn't even know it was, or wouldn't have known if it wasn't pointed out. I mean, what next? Are we going to have Halloween fight night, or everyone turning up in zombie makeup?
Maybe.
So yeah, I don't care either way. If they want to do them, they can do them. it doesn't bug me if they do. I don't care if they don't either.
I didn't mind it. Looking at the card, you would like there to be a more, Mexican-based presence, but I mean, the fans showed up. I mean, around here, and I live in, California, and there's pretty much like out of, every 10 cars, half of them had Mexican flags on them. It was nice, but the pageantry around the card was just, you could tell right off the bat that they were trying a little more than usual, which is nice, but do I need it? Like good Danger says, I'm not here to, have it, but I'm definitely not going to push it away if it's there. It gives the card a little something else to work with. But, at the same time, as long as the fighters are there, that if they're trying to push it, that would be nice. But, this is one of those things I think they ended up just kind of having what they had on the night instead of just, trying to actually plan for an event. The way the matchmaking works, they kind of left it to be desired. But I think it turned out all right in the end.
I think that they went pretty hard on it because how much of a hard on Dana has for Mexican fight fans and how much he wants to incorporate that market into the UFC. It's always been a big driving point of his. But I think like my thing really is they should fully lean into this when they, like Danger was saying, when they go to England or they go to Paris or they go wherever, they typically have whatever the nation is, they'll have, their fighters on the card. But if you're going to do that, you might as well lean into it a little more. Have, Parisian music packages, or, if you're in England, have well-known English celebrities doing the voiceovers or whatever it might be. Just kind of, instead of just lining the card with locals, give it a little bit extra flair for wherever you're at.
I guess we could jump in. I think it's April, and we could have a St. George's Day fight celebration.
Yeah, whatever the hell that means.
Yeah, I don't know who St. George is, but I'm
St.
down.
George. St. George is the patron saint of England. Like St. Andrew for Scotland, St. David for Wales. He's our patron saint. So.
Yeah, they fucking go for it. I think it gives the events a big time feel, even if it's not the most packed card.
Like that was just a fight night, and like people were saying, and I kind of agreed, it had almost like a pay-per-view feel a little bit.
Yeah.
It'd be nice.
I think
it'd be nicer to have it on the Apex cards, but they'll never do that.
Oh, don't you worry. We're back to the Apex next week.
God damn it.
Actually, that's a perfect segue. With that, it's time to take a quick moment to glance ahead at the upcoming card next weekend. I'm, of course, talking about Rafael Fiziev versus Mateusz Gamrot, live from the UFC Apex in Las Vegas. The Kazakhstan-born Fiziev enters coming off of a tough loss to Justin Gaethje back in March at London's O2 Arena. Poland's Gamrot returning off of a similar timetable, coming in 1-1 in his last two with a win over Jalen Turner and a loss to Benny Dariush. Are there any bouts you guys would like to highlight here ahead of time from this upcoming card?
I'll go first. Looking at the card right now, we have, Bryce Mitchell versus Danny Ige. Interesting how Bryce is coming off of, I believe, is it 2 losses now, if I'm not mistaken? And he's fighting Danny Ige, who's always a tough out no matter what. Granted, Bryce's last loss was actually just a singular loss to Poirier, and hasn't been able to fight since. But I'm interested to see if Mitchell can bounce back or not. Ige is always a tough out, never an easy fight for anybody. I think if anyone can, give Mitchell a tough fight, it's also Ige. And I think Ige has the ability to, meet him, not get run over, but I think he could give him a tough fight no matter what. I think the other one would have been Marina Rodriguez against Michelle Waterson, but I don't know where Michelle Waterson now is in her career, whether or not she's just fighting to just stay busy or if she wants to still be a contender. Marina is coming off of multiple losses now, and she was considered to be an actual contender in this division. And I'm kind of wondering whether or not she's staying or going at this point.
I got a quick question for you. You pointed out the Bryce Mitchell fight. You think his head's in the game? Are you familiar with what's been going on with him?
Here and there, I hear things when people talk about it. Like they mentioned something on the podcast, I think a while back, but isn't it like something like X going after him or something like that?
Yeah, like he claims. Oh, go ahead.
I saw a video of him today complaining about the weight cut. I don't know if he was joking or what. I don't know if that's his sense of humour. But he was eating a slice of pizza and saying how hard the weight cut was. So I don't know how to take that.
Yeah, he like freaked out on social media saying that like his girlfriend like killed all his fruit trees and like kidnapped his dog or something like that.
Yeah.
So then she went live on social media and had like showed Bryce like break the window at the house, and like I guess the dog's like afraid of him, and she had to get the dog out of like someplace, and he's just like, turns out he's kind of trash.
Oh, you mean he wasn't a terrible person to begin with?
No.
Here's how
he's got a lot going on outside the octagon too. Like,
I mean, that tends to happen.
I don't want to.
maybe he fights better like that.
I don't want to alienate a whole state, but that sounds like typical Arkansas to me.
Well,
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's like, well, that tends to happen. Trouble seems to follow you when you believe the Earth is flat. So.
So I always say this is why I don't dig into fighters' personal lives very much. I just prefer to watch them fight for the most part.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's thug nasty, not thug nicey.
That's very.
Yeah, I think though on this card coming up, I think there's actually a lot of good matchups, like Tim Means versus Andrew Fialho or whatever his name is. That should be fun. Muhammad Usman fighting Jake Collier. I don't know what Jake Collier. He's one of those heavyweights that's like Dawkins level, but you get to see Usman's younger, bigger brother. I think fight.
Yeah,
I think he's younger brother.
Yeah.
Yep, younger, bigger.
And Hannah Goldie, she's always can't miss TV. I think she's on BC's list.
Yeah, that's actually. Go ahead.
The fight I'm mostly looking forward to is Charles Jourdain versus Ricardo Ramos. Charles Jourdain is, like can't miss fights normally, and I think he's coming off a beatdown of Kron Gracie, so it should be fun to see what energy he brings into this fight.
Always good to catch an Air Jourdain fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mine. I'm actually gonna go back to what the fight you just mentioned with Hannah Goldie, but I'm going the other way. I'm most excited to see the return of Mizuki Inoue. For those that don't know, Mizuki is a Ray Longo product. She was been with Longo for a long while. That's the whole way I know about her is from the Anik and Florian podcast, but she's coming off of a 3-year layoff, I believe. Yeah, she's been out since August 22nd of 2020. That was her last fight. But prior to that, she's had her slight ups and downs, but majority ups. Possibly a bright future ahead of her. So yeah, I'm interested to see what she's got left in the tank at 29 after a 3-year layoff, coming out of that Sarah Longo fight team. What about you, Danger? You got anything you're looking at?
Sorry, much like Dave on a Saturday night, I had a mouthful of nuts there.
Oh, come on.
Sorry, man. I couldn't resist that opportunity.
What I put in my mouth is none of your business. DangerMouse spilling all my secrets.
It's all right. You don't edit. It's fine. You don't edit this out anyways. It's fine.
Yeah. Promises. Yeah, sorry. Let's give it a couple of seconds and I'll jump back in. Yeah, I think for me, obviously the main event looks quite interesting. And a fight that isn't the main event. I have a soft spot for Bryce Mitchell, despite all these ridiculous antics outside of the cage. Fighters for me, when they make an impact on me, that I remember from day one, those fighters don't come along that often. And Bryce Mitchell spending 15 minutes trying to get Charles Rosa, into a twister, just stuck with me. He had the massive, I think it's 30-24, 30-25, 30-25 card score. So Bryce always sticks in my mind. I think Ige should pose him a challenge, but if Bryce is on his game, he should get it done, I think. So yeah, that's my fight I'll be looking forward to on the card.
Another fight. This card's actually really good. I mean, I was looking at this earlier in the week when I was writing this stuff for this episode, and I didn't want to look ahead too much because I'm really looking forward to this card. We got the return of Brian Battle coming off of a big win last time around in his hometown, Charlotte. It's going to be nice to see what he can do on the main card. Like you mentioned, Dave, Timmy Means Business coming out against Fiallo. That's going to be a good one. Miles Johns, always a pretty fun guy to watch. Yeah, all in all, I think this is going to be a pretty good card.
Yeah, well, then that main event too. Like, I'm really curious if Fiziev will be able to keep Gamrot off of him. Like, I think Muay Thai fighters kind of tend to do well sometimes against wrestlers, but I don't know how that one's going to play out. I really hope he can hold them off him.
Yeah, looking at it, I like the matchup stylistically. I hate the matchup in the meritocracy standpoint, just because, I mean, they're right there at the top. It sucks that they have to fight each other. I mean, especially coming off of losses.
Yeah.
should have to fight someone like Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier. Those guys need wins, but nobody wants to fight unless they're ranked higher. Should be a good fight regardless.
Well, don't forget, Fiziev did get to have his match against Gaethje and lost it. So
Yeah,
you can't really hate
no,
him for not getting a high level opponent.
it would just be nice to see the guys have to fight backwards every so often, and like Gaethje did. We're all trying to sit on. They're all trying. I mean, when you get the ranking, I guess you do want to hold on to it a little bit longer.
Yeah, no, I kind of see what you're saying. Like, I like the idea of having a lot of contenders in a division, and like whoever loses this fight definitely has a lot of work to do before they're going to be a contender again. So
yeah,
maybe match them up with someone that's not really there, and not eliminate a contender.
Yeah, that's kind of the downside of the UFC model of they like to match up two guys coming off of losses, so at least one of them gets a win. But it's going to be rough to see either of these guys sitting on 2 L's in a row.
Yeah.
In this Shark Tank division.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be a fucking slobber knocker of a fight, I can tell you that much.
Agreed.
Yeah, it should be a good one.
Hopefully. I hope it's not 25 minutes
Why would you say that? Why would you do that to this?
Well, I mean,
Don't.
Evidently, Wallenstall's the new meta after the Blanchfield performance,
Holy
so
Jesus.
don't be surprised.
Oh my God. Did you? Okay, you know what? No, I was gonna save this for not even this. You know what? No, I'm not gonna. You know what? No, can't have this. I mean, you want to cheer for your boy Raul Rosas Jr. I think he's shit. He just happened to get one good fucking right hand or left. I'm sorry, it was left hook. Left hook. At the end of his left hook, he managed to get a guy who was off balance, flat footed, and jumping in and out of position. And of course, all he had to do was throw the left hook. God forbid that he actually learned how to strike. Let's just go ahead and swing punches while we're here. Yeah. Trying to talk bad about Blanchfield like that. Get out of here with that.
I did put in my notes that Rose's strikes landed per minute have definitely gone up. Something to notify Luke Thomas, because I think both of these guys landed less than 1 strike per minute prior to this fight.
Mind-boggling
My
right there.
boy. He's not my boy. I just enjoyed the fight and I enjoyed the performance. I thought he looked like a beautiful disaster. It was wild. With his body shape and style, it just kind of looks like some kind of weird AI art gone wrong.
Oh my god! I wasn't gonna bring that up.
It's fun to watch. And then he won, and everyone was all happy. And good time.
He might not be your boy, but he is still a boy.
Yeah.
Still a growing boy.
Mm-hmm.
I hope he's not still growing. I mean, at least not in the face.
Oh my god!
Well, yeah. I'm not going to touch that. But it is going to. One interesting point about Rosas is it's going to be interesting to see what weight class does he actually end up in, because still being just 18, you got to think he's going to continue to put on muscle mass, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, so he looks kind of super wiry and unnatural right now. He's probably normally like 155 pounds or some shit like that.
Yeah, naturally walking around, yeah.
Yeah.
Still don't like it. Still don't like it. You should just be getting...
So we've come to the conclusion the sky's the limit for Rosas Jr.
No, you can't say anything yet.
135, 145, 155. Triple champ.
No. Not yet.
Youngest in UFC history, baby.
Don't do that to him. Don't do that.
He is on track to become the youngest UFC champion in history.
He's in bantamweight. Are you kidding me? He needs a 10-fight win streak just to get there. And then on top of it, like 45 is packed.
No, they'll push him through.
Oh my god.
And he's even got time for a 10-fight win streak. He's 18.
All I'm saying is to just give him time. We don't need to like promote him as if he's the next coming of George St. Pierre or something. Like, come on. He's still.
Here's what you do: you book him with Umar, and if he beats Umar, you give him what's his face, Sean O'Malley.
He won't even submit him. He'll just literally pound him into dust, and then we'll be like, "Whatever happened to that kid? Oh, he never made it back. Never made it out of the cage."
Well, yeah. Those things happen in MMA.
Oh my god.
He got an extra 50 G's last night, and he already bought his mom a new minivan. So what's he gonna do with this money?
Down payment on a house.
I don't have any real intro to this, so I'll just freestyle it. Right.
Would you want to beat?
Drop the beat, Dave.
I can't do it. I tried to do it mouth beat. What boombox? What's the mouth beat thing? Where you do the
beatboxing. Oh shit! All right, guys. We're gonna wrap this thing up here with a just a little fun segment. Not anything too serious. So we're gonna shout out some of our favorite donks around the Discord here that aren't on the show, but we want to give them a little bit of love and put the spotlight on them. So, guys, go ahead and take it away and shout out your donks.
I'll go first. Shout out to Aussie, because he had mentioned, I think, yesterday that he had put out some pretty interesting bets up there. I think he somehow came up. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I don't know if he wants me to say it out loud, but it was a good call, because I think it ended up being what the main event ended up happening. The result of the main event, more or less. Well, I think it was a long shot too, but you know what? Hey, shout out to Aussie. That man is a genius.
He's also a great dude all around.
Yes, he is.
Good guy. Well, I guess I could shout out my best friend, who I think doesn't get nearly enough love on Discord. Our fearless leader, Captain B, the Pickle King. We tried to have him on the show before, but he couldn't make it. And, Captain catches a lot of flack in the Discord. And what people that listen to the podcast should know is he comes across as an asshole, but he really isn't like that at all. Like he just kind of posts like a terrible person and tries to start trouble and stuff and talks a lot of shit. But in reality, you have to understand, he's like 5'4", and he's just kind of angry at the world. But deep down, he's like a good person. He's actually really nice and stuff. It's just he doesn't know how to express himself, and he's really emotional. And so you just have to be really careful if you ever interact with him. But deep down, like without Captain V, this place would never have happened. He's always in a pickle, but he is our leader. Without him, this podcast never would have happened. Just don't pay attention to anything he says and realize that even when he's trying to be nice, he comes across like shit, but he doesn't mean it. And fuck that guy.
Here.
Yeah.
I'll jump in. I'll jump in now. Myself and Lemonac Mello last night were having quite a long conversation with Warden about the whether Aljo should have taken the fight against O'Malley so quickly and whether he was being rushed into it and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think either myself or Lem are really Aljo fans. We don't care that he lost. We just believe that Dana White pushed him into that. So shout out to Warden, because it was a very entertaining hour or so that we spent bouncing messages backwards and forwards.
All right. I guess I'll give my shout out to first I want to shout out the Man in Black, the very mysterious Man in Black. Doesn't say a lot, doesn't post a lot, but he's a hell of a fucking guy when it comes to fight predictions.
Mm-hmm.
Always at the top of the leaderboards. So shout out to the Man in Black for all that he does there. And then my second shout out, I got to shout out Podium Baby. Podium Baby fucking holds it down. Without that guy, we'd all be up shit creek without a paddle, because, you know, I think that the fight predictions is one of the main things that draws folks into this Discord. So
100%.
along with Dave's quiz. Dave is the quiz.
Yeah, PB is great for that. Thank you very much, PB. We really appreciate you for helping with that.
Shout out to PB.
Right.
The man, the myth.
The legend.
Hold on, am I still in the leaderboard on that quiz?
Yeah.
Perfect.
And I'll do a quick social media shout out as well to Mojahed Fudilat. I don't entirely know how you pronounce his second name. He did an absolute. He does lots of fun animated videos, but his videos about Sean Strickland winning this week were so funny, especially Dana's excuses to rematch Strickland versus Adesanya, just with Sean effortlessly blocking everything that Dana throws at him, whereas everyone else gets slapped around the face by Dana. So yeah, shout out to him. He does some very entertaining stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody got anything else for the shout outs?
Oh, I just realised, just remembered something that I promised to do last night. So give me a second, and I'll jump into it.
I can only imagine what this is going to be.
Okay, 1, 2. So I listened. I couldn't get in on Friday for the pre-show UFC Noche show, but I did obviously listen back to it. And Dave came out with this wonderful idea that Jared Cannonier would beat Sean Strickland because he'd already beaten him. And I have to roast him a little bit on that, because first off, that fight was very, very sketchy. You could easily give Sean that match. I do agree that Cannonier probably stole it on optics. That word again. He did land the heavier shots. But I think Sean now, how much Sean has improved since he fought that fight, I think Sean would destroy Cannonier. I don't think there would be any doubt who won that fight if it was rerun again. So, yeah, that was all I really wanted to slag Dave off for.
I'm not really sure that Sean has improved. I don't think you can make an argument for it. I think he was just tailor-made to beat Izzy, and he was good at following the game plan that night. I think he's still the same fighter he's always been.
Well, what's the saying? You get 30% better when you become a champion.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, well, how much better did fucking Grasso look last night? Did she look 30% better?
I thought she did. Valentina.
You thought she looked 30% better than the first fight?
If you want to argue optics, okay, no. But at the same time, Valentina
She looked exactly the same, didn't she?
No.
She looked exactly
No, I
the
thought
same.
she looked good.
No?
Valentina showed up.
You thought she looked better than the last
Oh
fight?
my gosh. Argue with me this, please.
Are you no? I mean, are you saying that she looked better than the last fight?
Are you saying Valentina didn't look like she wasn't the same?
No, I'm saying that Grasso looked about the same level as she
It's like
was
one without
last
answering
fight,
the
or
other.
maybe even a little bit worse. Like she lost 5% since the last
I
fight.
don't think so. Valentina just had to show
Well, she
up,
finished Valentina the last fight, and this fight it was a close decision.
which Grasso could have won, should have won.
Well, because Valentina threw away the fight at the end.
Oh my god!
Like Grasso did. I don't see how you think she looked better at all, especially another 30% better. I think if anything, she was
This
like
was the best
95%.
Valentina that she could have fought, and she still did pretty damn well. I'm just saying.
It was kind of the same Valentina
No,
as always.
Not really,
And
because
she
this
did worse than
Valentina
last time.
is a little different. This Valentina also showed up her
How,
defense.
yeah, she's a little older.
Oh my!
A little older.
Oh my god!
A little slower. A little longer in the tooth. You know,
This is just because
time waits for no man.
This is just because
No Valentina.
I gave my take on Raul Rosas. That's the only reason why you're fighting this.
No, I'm just saying that doesn't make sense at all. Like, how could she be 30% better if like she did worse this
You
time?
say this as if this is not a thing that can happen.
Like, I didn't see anything from her that looked 30% better. She
You become
did a little worse this time.
30% better than
Like,
what
Bell
you
fought a
were.
little bit better this time, but that's a myth.
It's not. Obviously, Sean Strickland did that.
No, Sean Strickland hasn't had a chance to become 130% because he hasn't defended yet.
You assumed he was 70.
Yeah. Well, like look at like Chris Weidman got worse.
That's
Luke Rockhold, Mike, but like most champs actually get like 30% worse.
I think it depends on the time that they become champion in their career.
Yeah.
That's why it's.
Does anyone else think that Grasso looked 30% better last night?
Yeah, I wouldn't say 30%. She might have looked a little bit better, but I think it was hard to tell because I think Valentina cleaned up a lot of her mistakes that she made in the first fight. I think she was a more refined version of herself. Obviously, they game planned better for this fight. They eliminated some of the bullshit. So I think it's kind of hard to gauge whether Alexa looked better or not because Valentina looked better.
Yeah.
And she,
That's true. I just didn't see anything like new from Grasso, so it made me think she got better.
a little bit better takedown defense and a little bit more, willing to engage in the counter grappling, which was something that she wasn't able to do in the first part as well.
Who do you have next for Strickland, Danger? That's a good question.
If it was my choice, I would actually have Sean fight Cannonier. I think he has every right as champion. Call someone out who beat him, especially in such a close decision. Whichever way you want to score it, I think it was 3-2. Whichever way you're going to score it. So yeah, I'd like to give Sean a chance to get that loss off his record. I think as a champion, he should have the right to call him out. The problem is, I do agree that Drickus has every right to have the next shot at the championship. So that's a horrible question. No, but just strictly on, if Sean had his choice, I don't really see why Sean couldn't call him out. All the champions have got away with that kind of stuff. Bisping did it. He called out Henderson, who in no way deserved a shot at the
Should have been
title
Robert
at that time. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think as a champion you should get a little leeway, which again Aljo did not get. He just got stuffed into his next match. But I know Sean, he will fight whoever the UFC put in front of him.
I got it. I know what you do. You give Dracus the fight because he's going to be healthy by the time Sean wants to fight again. Sean fights often and didn't sustain a bunch of damage in this fight. Izzy should take about 6 months off. 6 months off, just no fighting, no contact, no nothing. You pair Cannonier.
Well, you can't give
Wait, what do you mean?
like you can't give Drickus the fight.
You
Like, just
can because
can't.
they're going to need a main event.
Because because Dana already said no.
He's already
He
walking
doesn't like when
back
people do
his
that.
fight.
And if you give Drickus the fight, then you're setting the precedence that you can say no, and you can still get the fight. And so you can't
Dana
set that
contradicts
precedent.
himself
So like he shouldn't
constantly.
even be.
He's okay with that.
When has Dana ever name one time when Dana's contradicted
Oh
himself?
my God, are we really going to go down this path right now? Okay.
No, I was just curious.
He has no issue being hypocritical. He's done it many a time. I think that if the UFC wants an active champion, they have one in Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland will defend against whoever. He's not going to be picky. Matter of fact, he might not even care if it is Kennedy or Dracus. He might even just take the rematch with Izzy because the UFC wants that fight. Is that smart matchmaking? No, because you need Izzy to kind of take time off just to kind of figure out whether or not he is going to be a guy who can retake the belt. And if you are going to make more money with Izzy as champion, wouldn't you want him to have a better camp, be better prepared in the long run? Even if he might not even have to have a tune-up fight or a number one contender fight, he might just get the rematch just because he's a former champion. So I would prefer him to get a tune-up fight. I would prefer Izzy to take time off and then come back maybe 6 months after, get some fight booked down. Maybe the loser of Khamzat and, Paulo Costa. You have Roman Dolidze, who's, out in the wings off of a loss to Vettori. Vittori's coming off of 2 losses. Cannonier's coming off of 2 wins. Dracus is coming off of a whole win streak in the division. Robert's coming off of a loss to Dracus. The division's a mess, There's no absolute number one contender. The only one who's closest enough is Dracus.
Yeah.
If Izzy's going to get is going to be pushed forward into the rematch, it needs to be soon. I think Sean would want to fight before Christmas, and that's what should happen. Izzy shouldn't have the option to push it to one side and say, I want to fight in April or whenever the hell he wants to fight. If he fights at the pace the champion sets, because that's the rule he himself has set.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. There's no reason to push that fight immediately either. They waited a while for Izzy to get a rematch against Pereira as well, didn't they?
A little while, yeah. I did check while we were arguing about this. I did check Izzy's record to see how much space he'd had between fights. His fastest turnover of fights was when he went up to 205, lost, and then came back down. And I think that was around the 3-month space between the fights. Every fight after that, it's 4+ months that he's taken. Which don't get me wrong, he's the most active champion probably ever in the UFC.
No, that's right. Curious, what's do you happen to see Strickland's?
Wasn't there a tweet or something from Strickland recently where he said that he's on a forced vacation right now?
He's having
basically.
Yeah, his toe got splashed up, so he's had a few days off sparring. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure what he was referring to by that. I didn't know if that meant, they were shelving him for a period of time or something.
I mean, that'd be something to consider too. We don't want to use you just yet, right?
Yeah.
But
I'm looking. He's been pretty active. Strickland has.
Have you got it up now?
3 fights in 2022, 3 fights in 2023.
Okay, so
it's a bit early to start speculating, but I've heard talk also that they're starting to plan for 300. So they're looking ahead at what kind of champions they're going to be able to schedule around then. I don't know if Strickland's going to fall into that or whoever the middleweight champion is at the time, but
that's why I'm saying.
Yeah, we're almost there.
You might as well just save Izzy for a rematch with whoever the champion is, or a date with the title, for that matter. That would probably make more money for them.
What do you think? Strickland in New York on the John Jones and Stipe card?
What, co-main event, maybe?
Yeah, that's what I'm
So
thinking.
Strickland and Duplessis?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. I mean, like I just said, I'd be happy to see Cannonier, but Drickus deserves the fight. So.
Yeah.
Is DDP's all healed up and
By
ready
this
to
time
go?
he should be.
He should be. He should be, yeah.
Yeah, with that.
And if he turns the fight down with Sean at this rate of notice, then Dana has every right to say sod off, go back to South Africa and start fighting again for another chance.
Right.
I'm looking at that fight card right now. It's got Brunson on it still. So
Well,
we know that's
it is in New York though, right? So
yeah,
it would justify the ticket prices being jacked up if they put 2 titles on it.
yeah, right now the co-main is Andrade versus Dern.
That's not going to sell that. No.
That's not great.
No, not MSG. Those tickets, no. But yeah, you slap Strickland DDP on there for the strap.
Who do you pair? Well, that's the other thing too. Who do we pair who with at the end of it? I mean, you can't put Vittoria and Robert together because Robert already just beat him. And then Cannonier's waiting in the wings probably as the next contender if Izzy isn't ready. You probably just match him up with honestly Whitaker, but then again you also have Costa and Kazat God damn it. Fucking I kill everybody. He's Kamzat. Yeah, Kamzat. Thank you. Shemaya, thank you. If he wins, he might have a number 1 title contendership just in line just for beating Costa. But if Costa wins, he's right back in the mix too. He's coming off a win over Luke Rockhold. Yeah, the division's got movement.
It has, yeah. Strickland has really shaken things up.
Yes, he has.
Yeah, because that was Izzy that kind of turned down the notion of, Izzy and Dana that turned down the notion of DDP getting the fight. And he was saying maybe the winner of Costa versus Kamzat. But, Strickland's a company man, like Danger said. So who knows what we're going to get? Probably DDP. Now that I think about it.
They're going to want somebody who's active, somebody who's going to defend, doesn't ask questions. Costa is a guy who gives them headaches more often than not. Kamzat can't fight consistently because he's stuck in wherever he is. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have the entire Ramadan breaks and everything. You're back to the Khabib kind of situation. Maybe one defense a year. Whereas, Sean, you'll get 2 or 3 defenses should he hang on to the belt. So I don't think Hamzat makes a great choice for the UFC. Unless he can, I'm not sure what his visa issues are, whether he can fight in Europe. I presume he can.
That's the other thing too. That's good to mention that because he has a hard time getting back into the US on a regular basis.
I almost think that they prefer keeping him over there too, just because that's where
Abu Dhabi, right?
Yeah, you throw him on one of those cards and it's a packed house.
I think Akira keeps him on a short leash too, so he can't travel very far because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't be wrong.
Jan Pole in his back pocket. All right, should we wrap this thing up, guys?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, guys. If I let these donks keep going, they'll go all night. So there it is, everybody. Episode 5 of Just Bleed Radio. UFC Noche is history, and we're on to Fiziev versus Gamrot. For myself, DangerMouse, No Special, SuperDave, Fairtex, and all of us here at the show, we thank each of you for tuning in. And until next time, don't sweat the petty stuff, and don't pet the sweaty stuff. That's it.
That was good. That was good. Very, very good.
Just Bleed Radio is an MMA roundtable podcast, hosted by LazyBed, edited and produced by SuperDave Fairtex, analysis and commentary by DangerMouse and No Special, brought to you in association with the official Morning Combat Discord.